coming in, miss? What the fuck are they doing?
They're moving in.
It does, feels like that.
And it sort of goes between being sad and angry. I'll probably start crying, and I don't want to cry when I talk about the regional council. Yeah, we were really quite chuffed when they rang us. I think they rang us to say that we'd been nominated for an environmental award, and it felt like, you know, recognition for all the QE2 trusts, you know, all the covenants we have, and, you know, all the repair and planting that we chose to do voluntarily quite early on, and more than what was needed really, putting aside all this land. I said I wanted to break it a few times lately, yeah, and send it back in half. Yeah, that's kind of, except for you wouldn't let me, would you?
No.
No, that belongs to 2008, and you know, what happens now is now, so. But I don't value it anymore. Not at all. I look at it and think, you know, we did it for all the right reasons, and then the very organisation that gives it to us allows them to, you know, notify frack and dump their shit in the stream next to us. So, yeah, it makes me look at it quite differently. The company were fracking. They were fracking there and they were fracking over here without telling anyone, without anyone knowing. So, and the only reason we kind of put it together was because of the effects we had, you know, that smell and the ground shaking.
We've got well sites on three sides of us. You know, 14 out the front by your house, 16 out the back by the back of your farm, and another 12 on the other side. It's like it's damaged. It's damaged in a way that we can't repair it. It doesn't matter how many beautiful trees are growing there anymore when the water runs directly out from underneath a well site. And we were using that water. And we were across the way from all the flaring from the flare pits, coming across at the top of our house, and we were drinking the water from the rainwater.
The level of scrutiny of the companies, I was told when I asked questions about it, that they just allow them to keep it clean because they won't shit in their own nests.
And self-regulate, which is a joke.
And they'll self-regulate themselves. Yep. And that's when I started finding all that stuff in the reports. There's been all sorts of anecdotal information about the illnesses and things, about the way that people feel that live, you know, within a K of these places. And because I know about the level of how much the companies were left to monitor themselves, it makes you really worried about what could have caused those things. You know, you can choose to go and work on an oil and gas site as a worker, and you make that choice and you take the money they do and you run that risk of working in that environment. As next door neighbours to these places, we share those same risks, but we're trying to live our lives and run our livelihoods beside them with all those risks built on top of it, and we don't even get a say in it. Non-notified, tick the boxes, go ahead. And yet we share all those risks to our lives and our livelihoods, and also to the way we see the world. So, you know, that's been why it's been so hard at our farm, you know, having those covenants. They're a big part of who we are in our lives and the way we run that farm. And the stuff happening next door is just like giving the finger to all that.
Who's that?
That's David's mum.
That's Margaret. She's the one that lived to 100, died recently. That's Kay. Oh, look. There's Davey. There's Davey when he with the bubba. They've got to be all of what? One?
You look just like Blair.
That's probably 30 years ago. This is a portrait of my dad. Fought in the Second World War. Yeah. My parents were older parents, and Dad got the farm. He'd been away serving in the Second World War, and he got this place with some help from his brother. He got some money from his brother and bought this. Like I say, this is the original covenant. I created 3 others with the idea that the house would be surrounded by its own little national park. I was born in Stratford. I grew up here. Yeah. Like I say, when that Lockwood was built, before that we lived in an old villa next door. And yeah, so I've spent most of my 53 years here. It's a dairy farm. Grew up milking cows and, you know, helping out in the cow shed like you do. We didn't seek to gain notoriety or take up any kind of green banner or anything like that. It's just what we had to do, I don't know. I didn't spend 20 years creating a park to have other people come along and just act like it didn't exist. And what my parents had done, and what I'd done, and what my kids had done, and what my friends had done, the planting days and fencing days and making it a nice place to live and work, and then those bastards just come along and like we didn't matter.
We would choose to come back here, wouldn't we? To the house and the land that, you know, in some form, if it wasn't for the fact that we now got 4 well sites here. Yeah. That was kind of like the finish, wasn't it, when we heard they were going into production.
Down the road there.
It was like you have them there, there, there and there. And because it's endless, it's like someone having a cancer for 30 years or something. Land use consent is 30 years long. So what, we're supposed to wait here for 30 years? We feel like we've lost the farm. No, I couldn't live there. I can't see myself living there anymore. The oil and gas looks like it does because there's not much left, and it's harder and harder to get. And when it's harder and harder to get, they get closer and closer to your houses. They go underneath your houses, they're beside your schools, they're in your cities. It's just intense, and this is only the beginning. I thought, right, I'll go back and I'll have a look at the history of the well site and I'll talk to people that lived around it who remembered about it. And I called up all the reports. They have environmental monitoring reports. In the very first report I picked up, it talked about broken casings and about how they'd been leaking for 2 years and an undisclosed amount of produced water had gone missing. But it was all right because they hadn't done any water testing. You know, but that was kind of like, okay, but this is right here beside our house. I had cross-referenced all their reports and I'd found letters on files of complaints of contamination, so I'd go looking to see whether investigation happened, and there wasn't one. I wanted to know what consents had been granted. and things kept getting changed on the website. So you'd go and look for something and it would be different. Over and over again there was this kind of thing, oh, so you lost a whole pile of produced water.
Yeah.
Oh,
Breach of
okay.
consent, no consequences, and they still got a big tick.
I believe if the council had been doing their job, if the regulations had been followed, I actually at the moment, I've always felt the regulations are actually good enough. It's just how they're applied.
So whose interests is the council protecting?
The oil and gas industry. That's how I feel about it. But first and foremost, it's all about business. You know, that's been the whole focus all along, is getting from what I can see with the councils, is balancing out the difference between economy and environment. They want to see how far they can push the envelope before the environment runs out, because it will run out. They have just overlaid another industry on top of the dairy one that we're struggling with already, and they've just allowed the same type of discharge, but chemical, into the water, all over Taranaki.
And you can see the scars in the landscape, you know, and the physical effects of the activity on the roads and the traffic. You know, they talk about the economic benefits, but it doesn't have...
It doesn't hit the ground.
Stratford's resealing all its footpaths with the money that the oil and gas company brings in. You know, that's about it.
You know, the people at these well sites that live around these well sites, if they knew half of what I know about what has been placed on the ground and in the air and in the water there, they would be horrified. I want to say to them, move, leave. You know, pack your car right now and go right now, because that's what's making your family sick. The horizontal drilling and the hydraulic fracturing and combining them means that anything's up for grabs. But that means that everywhere they go, they cause disruption. They cause unease. They cause family rifts. We have people working for them and against them. You know, we have people getting lots of money, people getting no money. It's just a terrible business. So it doesn't look as ugly as in America with the thousands of wells that they've got over there, but it'll come. And if you have a history that started off by letting the oil companies go anywhere they want to go, how on earth is that going to be reined back in? You know, when you've had consents that literally let them drill underneath your local primary school, how are you going to ever get that back? This whole province is a kind of industry, isn't it, really? But we can't have it all. You know, what's that saying? You have your cake and eat it too. You know, it doesn't work like that. And in the middle of all of this is the environment that's supposed to sustain the whole lot of it.
Before this happened, before these well sites came next to us, I guess climate change was a factor in my life. I'd thought about it a lot, but this makes you really understand what it looks like. It just brings it home in a way that until you have this happen, you don't really understand what it means.
You know, a lot of people must experience it, but it's really hard to, you know, there isn't any one thing that will make this right anymore. You know, and that's the bit that once you give up on that, you know, there's no going back on it. You know, there's no, I can't put the lid back on this one. And all I can do is help manage it and help people come to terms with it and help people understand it and help people have a voice in it. That's one of the things I'm really encouraging, is that actually, if it's going to look like this, you have to have a voice in it. You have to have a say in what's going to happen.
This fight is a fight for our lives and my children's lives and my grandchildren's lives. This is a fight worth having. You know, when you have to work out where the fights happen, you know, you can't do everything, and some things you have to let go. Well, this isn't one of them.